So, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Longley's Line Podcast. I am your host, Stephen Longley. Remember to like, follow, subscribe on all of those social medias. Stephen Longley for me, Longley's Line for the show, Lightstyle Studio for our studio here. And as you guys are well aware, we bring all kinds of folks from all across the entertainment industry, and today is no different. Today I have the musician, Charlie Marks. Charlie.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here. Before we go into anything, go ahead and promote your social medias, where you want people to find you, things like that.
Oh, yeah. So my name's Charlie Marks, a folk musician. You can find me on Instagram, Charlie_Marks_music. You can find, I got a website, charliemarksmusic.com, and you can find all my stuff on like Spotify and Apple Music. I used to say that my stuff wasn't on Amazon for a while. I was like, this is my stand against corporate America or whatever. But then I accidentally uploaded an album to Amazon. So now that stand ended and on accident. And so you can find me out there on the internet. YouTube, actually, I should start promoting YouTube. I got some good live videos and whatnot. And
it's always fun when you forget about the one. You're like, oh, crap, that's right. I have this to promote, too.
There's so many. I don't want to exist on the internet, but we have no choice.
Yeah, well, follow my threads as well, and then on TikTok. And
I've stayed away from both of them.
I tried so hard, and then you know who got me into TikTok? Not my stepdaughter, who's 15 and is always on TikTok. My dad.
Your dad got
because he is always on there, and he's constantly sending me stuff, but it would be through text, and then I'd go, all right, okay, I see it. Bring up, okay, and then I finally just downloaded him.
Gave up, yeah.
Well, mainly I'm just here for funny videos and football.
Yeah, I get my reels. I get a lot of like baseball memes, and I kind of enjoy that.
Yeah, whenever you get the ones where it's like, oh, they do know me, and it's baseball or football or just stupid, funny cat videos or something like that, and then it's like, huh, man, this isn't so bad. How long have I been doing this? 2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah. You know. So, to reel it back now, where are you from originally?
I grew up a little outside Cleveland, Ohio, which Cleveland, as far as Midwest cities go, feels not that different than Reno as far as Western cities go.
As in, like, it's kind of like not metropolitan, but... Yeah,
it's kind of mid-sized. To be fair, like, every city in the Midwest is sprawling with, like, huge suburbs. Mm-hmm. And Reno, you know, you can... If you go stand on top of one of the mountains, you can see the entire city right there. And, but, yeah, I grew up in Ohio, and then when I graduated college, I just got on I-80, and I drove as far as I could on it. And I've been out west for, like, a decade.
Did you make any other stops that you thought might have been permanent, or was it just after driving down 80?
Yeah, I kind of bounced around. So, like, I grew up right off I-80 in Ohio, and then I drove out to Oakland. I was there for a little bit. I wound up in my car for a little while, kind of by choice, necessity and choice, but I think it's good to make the distinction. There's a lot of folks who don't have a choice in that matter.
Yeah, I've been there before.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, and which is tough. And so I made the choice to kind of move into my car, and it kind of suited me pretty good. And I wound up, the 395 is like one of the best highways to live in your car on.
Yeah.
So I kind of wound up somewhere in like the Bishop Mammoth area, just kind of floating for a little while. And I ended up getting to go to grad school in San Diego, which is where I met my partner. And then we just took the 395 all the way up here, and we've been here for like almost 3 years now.
Wow. While you were in high school, college, grad school, did you always want to pursue music, or was that kind of just a hobby? What were you going to school for?
Well, I studied like math and computer science in college. I really liked studying math, and I was trying to do something kind of practical, learn how to program, which is cool. But I always, since I was little, I always like for whatever reason really wanted to sing and play. Really singing felt like something I was really drawn to. My family isn't super musically talented. There's not a lot of music in my immediate family, but I would sing a lot growing up, and people would tell me I sounded like Bob Dylan, and they meant please stop singing. And I will go on record now, and I'll if you wanted to do a 1 hour in which I pulled up different songs of his career, and I'd love to just do a whole thing, right? Show all the wonderful transitions he made vocally in his career and how wonderful he is. But people were telling me not to sing, and when I was just about to graduate college, I was in a pretty low place. I hadn't played music for a long time, and I wasn't super proficient at it anyway. But I saw that Coen Brothers movie, Inside Llewyn Davis. I don't know if you know that one.
No, I like the Coen Brothers, but I don't think.
Yeah, they're officially now, especially after a couple of the movies I've seen recently. They're officially my favorite.
Coen Brothers are awesome.
And I could also do a long discussion about their impact on my life, but to keep it short, Inside Llewyn Davis is a movie about a folk singer in New York City in Greenwich Village. It's kind of loosely supposed to be about this guy named Davon Ronk, who was like Bob Dylan's uncle in the 60s. Not real uncle, just but folk scene. They called him the mayor of McDougal Street because he was like in charge of Greenwich Village. He was the guy. And even like decades after Greenwich Village was no longer a folk scene, Davon Ronk was still there.
Gotcha.
So he was like he was part of the streets, and so I saw that movie, and it's kind of about a depressed folk singer who's just trying to figure things out. And after I saw that movie, it resonated a little bit too much, and I went home and I started figuring out how to finger pick some of the old traditional tunes that were in that movie, and then. Took a while, but over a period of time, maybe like 5, 6 years ago, I came home from a pawn shop. It was like a music pawn shop that was like closing down, and they sold me a banjo that was half off, but they marked it up double, so it was just what it was supposed to be. I'm burping a little bit right now.
The banjo.
I came home with the banjo, and Jenna was like, "What are you doing with that? Like, why?" Which I did also get a fiddle a couple months later, and that was, I think, a little bit more of an extreme. But the banjo really clicked. I started playing this kind of old time style called clawhammer, and it's like kind of this old, like African folk style playing the banjo that kind of was one of the main ways the banjo was played before bluegrass music. And it just really clicked for me. And all of a sudden I found kind of my voice, and I kind of scaled up. And right as the pandemic started, I was starting to perform. So when the pandemic allowed it, I just started gigging and then touring, and I kind of have spent that entire time just playing as many shows as I can.
Did you start with the guitar or a different instrument before you moved on to the banjo, or was it kind of just kismet where you were singing and then all of a sudden it was like, ooh, banjo?
So I was playing the guitar. I have gotten better at having good time, like good tempo, like a drummer would have time. I do have a good time as well.
You got to have a good time.
Yeah, but I kind of like had this weird way of strumming a guitar that I just did because I didn't know what I was doing. And it turned out it was not actually that far off from a clawhammer strum on the banjo. So I was playing the guitar, but then when I started playing banjo, it like clicked, and I really like kind of took to it. And this specific style of playing, you're almost like drumming on the strings instead of picking them.
Is it where it kind of lays flat?
No, you hold it like you'd imagine someone would hold a banjo, but instead of like you can imagine a bluegrass banjo sound where someone's finger picking. Instead, you're kind of hitting the strings with your fingernails, and your thumb kind of catching some of the strings.
Where it's more of like your fingers are the picks.
Yeah, or the back of your finger. It's like you make a claw. It's called claw hammer because you make a claw, and you're just kind of smacking the strings instead of picking them. And there's variations and cool things you could do, but so I basically got absorbed into banjo for several years, and then after I recorded an album. Initially, I recorded an album just to have like a mixtape I could send to like a venue and be like, I'd like to play a show. Can I? But then I'd been playing banjo so much, I kind of came back to the guitar, and I had a lot of confidence from learning the banjo, just confidence in my ability to learn new things. And then I started finger picking on the guitar, and then that took off. And that's probably what I feel like most proficient at, is just finger picking on a guitar. So
What was your first performance after you kind of were sending something out to venues? Did you have a first performance that comes to mind?
well, it's like I played a show I was living in San Diego at the time because I was in grad school. I played a lot of like open mics and stuff forever, but and I played like this like a open mic that turned into a show a week before the pandemic. And so then it was just like, oh boy. And so I think my first show, like the first like longer set I did was at Picnic. And which I'm grateful for, and grateful for Trevor for having me. And for like maybe the first 3 months after the pandemic allowed it, I was playing, like Picnic and Tentor and all the bars around town.
All the little
and then on down on
outskirts of downtown.
on 4th Street, a lot of those places. Lead Dog was doing a lot of music. There was a stretch there where I feel like they were treating artists really nice. I don't mean that they are not treating artists nice now.
But there was a
period in time where they were really treating artists nice. I just realized this was a Reno specific podcast, and the way I said that, like they were just having a lot of music, and I think now they're doing music like once a month. So that's all I mean by that. And
where it was a lot more than it is now.
Yeah, there was a little stretch where I could just call them and then get a show, and now it was like a little more like, and I also started traveling more to play, and so anyway, Lead Dog treated me really good. Black Rabbit's always treated me really good, and a lot of these Reno places were kind of where I got it going.
When you were doing the performances, did you do a lot of original stuff, or was it a lot of like Bob Dylan covers? How you kind of had that comparison early on, or did you have different inspirations or covers that kind of came to mind?
Yeah, so on banjo, I do a lot of, when I was first getting going, I do a lot of traditional songs on the banjo. I've kind of, when you're first starting as a musician, you take gigs that you can get. You play like a 2-hour bar show where you're kind of in the corner, and so I play a lot of traditional tunes. I got a couple Dylan songs, but also there's this whole tradition of folk tunes that folks like Bob Dylan and all these other folk musicians have all been playing that game, where so you have a song like the Lonesome Road Blues, and every folk singer has played or recorded
Does a
it.
cover of it.
And there's all kinds of songs kind of like that. And then kind of as I've started playing, as you make the transition from like playing those 2-hour bar shows, which those are often the ones that pay and help you keep things going.
That you benefit from.
Yeah, but when the ideal space is definitely like kind of a listening room type of thing. If you can imagine like Greenwich Village Cafe with people all around and listening. And Reno Black Rabbit kind of provides that type of, have you been in there before? That kind of feeling. And as I tour, when I get to find those spots, then I tend to do more original stuff, but I'll bring in traditional songs and covers. I really like to tell stories in between songs, and a lot of those traditional ones it's really fun to talk about the history of the music. And
what kind of traditional folk songs, like for, some of those people that may not know the average folksy tune, so it's like kind of Bob Dylan as sort of the guiding light. What my wife and I have this conversation a lot, where it's like John Denver is country, like he won the country album. However, in her family growing up, they considered him folk.
Right.
Or, like different sort of names where you would think about categorizing them as country, but then a lot of people will say folk. Or what's kind of the traditional ones, or like some artists maybe people might know or something.
Oh, so that's a cool question. So the music before our modern time is like an oral tradition. I mean, people have always been writing songs. Like someone had to write every song. Someone had to start singing.
There's a cover of it somewhere.
Yeah, but music has a slightly more fluid and nature. It's like a big game of telephone. A really famous folk tune, and this one we know who wrote it. There's a woman named Elizabeth Cotten. I don't know if you're familiar with that name.
Doesn't sound
familiar. But she was born in like the 1890s in, I believe, North Carolina, a young black girl born in the 1890s, and she taught herself to play the guitar. She actually taught herself to play it upside down because she was left-handed, and her brother had a guitar, and her parents got all mad at her because they were like, yeah, a good Christian girl doesn't play that kind of music.
Yeah, it doesn't play the devil's music.
Yeah, exactly. And she didn't for like 40 years. And then one day she was in a department store, working at a department store in Asheville, North Carolina, and a little white girl's running around, and she picked up the little girl, and the family was like, oh, thank you for finding our daughter. And then they were like, do you want to come work? She really likes you. Like, do you want to be her nanny? We'll pay you probably better than this job. And she said, sure. And this family had all kinds of instruments and stuff in their house. And one day they came in and she was playing the guitar, and she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I just, and they were like, don't be sorry. You're really good. How are you that good at guitar?
It's meant to be played.
Yeah. She was like, you're fantastic. And this is, I think, in the early 50s. And so that family was the Seeger family, which I think is also relevant to this, what I'm trying to get to. But the Seeger family is this famous folk music family. They kind of collected a lot of songs. In the early 1900s, there was this period of time in which a lot of like academics were kind of going around the South and Appalachia and just recording folk songs.
Okay.
So that's where names like, I don't know if you heard of Lead Belly. Oh, this is fun. I'm having, there's a whole constellation
There's like,
of
if
names.
you want to go for some of those original songs, like I should have put it up, but like Hank Sr. is my favorite.
Yeah. And so Hank is in this tradition too. I'm not quite as familiar with his lineage here. To conclude the Elizabeth Cotten bit, she wrote this song called Freight Train when she was a little girl. And Freight Train, if you're a folk musician and you want to learn to play the guitar, this is how I learned to play the guitar.
That's the one.
You learn to play Freight Train. And absolutely every single folk artist in the 60s recorded Freight Train. And everybody, you go around and you see a gathering of people who are folk guitar players.
It's going to be played.
It's going to be played. And so, and then there's other songs, things like, I think the one that I play that everyone knows is In the Pines. You know that one?
It sounds familiar.
In the pines where the sun don't never shine.
Yeah.
I shiver the whole night through. And because Nirvana did it and not MTV Unplugged. And so everyone knows that song. But it's like an example of this song. It goes way back to like Lead Belly, who was Lead Belly, and Pete Seeger were like two of these guys who were like kind of songbirds. They would like learn and knew all of these folk songs, where like they probably collectively knew thousands of folk songs,
right?
And kind of kept these traditions alive. So and then from there, it's like a whole constellation of artists emerge from there. And that's kind of what Hank Williams kind of provides for country music too, him and Jimmy Rogers. And I think the history is really cool because as you go like, you can find these like starting places, but it's not like they wrote anything. They were just playing music that everyone around them was playing and playing it their own way. And they had commercial success, and it kind of spawned whole new genres. So I really like the connection between us right now and the past, and like seeing how we're very much connected to it. I write my own songs and whatnot, but I'm not like that into, I know with like copyright laws and stuff, we kind of need to say like this person wrote this song and this person wrote this song,
Yeah,
but
get through all the black tape.
yeah, but I feel like music is more of it's like a big game of telephone that we're playing with, and it feels really special because now I have artists I listen to all the time, and I feel like I'm in conversation with them, or they're conversing to me, and now I get to like learn from them.
Yeah. Like the amount of songs that are actually covers or that pull bits and pieces, like even though it's a completely different genre, the rapper Tech Nine,
Okay.
a lot of his music or songs, lyrics, everything like that, you can see bits and pieces of different things. Like he has a song called Welcome to the Midwest, and it's an old Dean Martin song.
Oh, cool.
Like the singer that's on there sings his own cover and version of the Dean Martin song that sounds very familiar, but they add their own words to it. So it has the same rhythm of a old Dean Martin song, but it's in this rap song.
Cool.
That's completely different.
that.
And he'll bring in different bits and pieces of stuff that sounds familiar. So you know it from somewhere, but he brings it in and makes it his own, which is the same as like going back to Hank Sr., where it's like he is playing the songs around him and he has this very distinctive voice and writes these songs that Ray Charles covered, Patsy Cline, she covered, like Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash has an album where he covers all Hank Sr. songs because he wrote them and they were original at that time.
Right.
So it's like music always kind of comes from somewhere else, but people always make it their own.
Yeah.
So it's like even if you're writing something original, you may have this inspiration in the back of your head
Right.
from somewhere else. And does that kind of go into your writing as well?
Yeah. Oh, it's very explicit. I mean, I have songs that I've written where I pull a lyric from a song I really like, even if it's like half a line, because you can think a lyric, like way a song works, you might have a verse, but then like you can take, sometimes I will take like a phrase. Like I wrote a song recently. One of my favorite folk singers is Blaze Foley. He's got a song called If I Could Only Fly. And I just put that line, if I could only fly, and I don't use it precisely. And actually, it's quite contextually, it's quite similar too. And most people aren't going to be like, oh, that's a Blaze lyric.
Yeah.
But anyone who's a Blaze Foley fan is going to hear, and it's my intent, because I love Blaze Foley, so it's my intent. It's like I'm trying to tell the other Blaze Foley fans, like
It's a little tribute.
yeah, it's like, and that's where I think it's also about how you play this game of bringing your influences in. I think the band that's like one of the most famous examples of not doing the best job would be like Led Zeppelin is kind of famous for this.
Okay.
They'd play a blues song, like an old blues song, and then like claim they wrote it. And it's not a problem to play the song and to play older songs, but when you like don't contextualize it and where it came from, I think you're dishonoring the people who carried the tradition on so that you could be part of it too.
Right.
And then the other thought I had was like, as long as we are doing the things to be ourselves, like we're living our life in a way where we're trying to be ourselves and live up to like our potential and whatnot, we're original. There's nobody like us. So like each of us. So like you could make a whole living out of like taking art that came before you and recreating it. And by virtue of you doing it, it's going to be original.
Yeah.
And as long as you're fostering whatever it is that makes you you, because I think that can actually be the hardest part about being an artist is when you're you know,
not being authentic.
Yeah, because I mean, there's all these pressures of just like, what does my audience want? When you're starting off, you don't have an audience, and you're like, what does my audience want? It's like, I don't even have one.
Yeah.
What is some perceived audience that I might have?
What does that drunk guy at the bar want?
Yeah, and then if you're living that way, you might not tap into that original aspect of yourself. If you're wondering what other people might be wanting from you,
right.
then you might create art that is not for you, it's for a not real perceived audience.
Where it's sort of like the mainstream version of it, where you're just writing something that people will want to listen to, but not necessarily has meat on the bone, you know?
Yeah.
Like where you're giving somebody something to eat, but it's like, I'm not even enjoying this. I just like it because I like it.
Yeah,
exactly. If that makes any kind of sense.
I think so. And I don't say that to insinuate anything negative about doing that. It's just like, that's, as being a person, I think about this all the time, making the transition from living your life based on other people's expectations of you to living your life based on your own expectations for yourself.
Right.
That's hard.
Yeah. Doing it more for you than specifically doing it for somebody else.
Yeah.
And then hopefully if you do it for you, then other people will enjoy it and try to, gravitate towards it.
Yeah, and sometimes it makes the journey a little harder, I think, because sometimes people might not totally understand what you're creating, or we're not all. I have this faith that we're pretty connected as people. We share a lot of experiences, just what it feels like to be a person and to be living and to try and figure it all out. So I kind of have this faith that if you speak to something true in your own life, you're probably speaking to something true in not everybody else's life, but a lot of people's lives. So
one of the most unexpected advocates for country music was Snoop Dogg. Because Snoop Dogg made a line where it was like, rap music and country music are very similar because it's people telling stories of what they know. And it's them being authentic and being themselves. This may not be the exact line that he said, but the whole point is you can say rap music and country music are very similar because it's the people that are producing that music are being authentic to what they know.
Yeah.
And being themselves. And that's kind of what you want. And as you're going through it, getting, a few more gigs here and there, now you recently just kind of went on a tour. How has the transition gone from trying to book things here, as lead dog and things like that, where you can just call up and do what you need to now actually going on the road? How has that transition been?
It's gone pretty good. I'd say I've been touring across the country for almost a year and a half now. Maybe the last 15 months I've been, a year ago last summer, I did a full U.S. run. And then I've probably done 3 trips out east. I've done a bunch of trips to the Northwest and Southwest. And I really like the experience of getting to travel and play. Logistically, it is challenging, but it's funny because there's just places where when you kind of start to settle into what you're doing, and I think this is why being grounded in some kind of tradition of music is helpful, because if you're just kind of doing your own thing and it's disconnected from history, it's hard to know how to find your people, your places to play. But when you're kind of grounded in some of these folk traditions, I say Dave Von Ronk, and there are some people who go, that's right, yes. Yeah. Or you say Elizabeth Cotton, or you say Bob Dylan, or you say Leadbelly. There's all these kind of people that... and sometimes it's much more subtle than saying something like that. But there's this whole constellation of musicians and venues across the country who there's no, it's not like written down, it's not formal, but there's just these like places where people have congregated, and getting to travel across the country, I keep on kind of discovering more and more of these places, especially like listening rooms. And as a musician, the most beautiful thing I can find is a venue that cares deeply about the music. Because I've traveled, sometimes you just gotta focus on making gas money somewhere. You take a bar gig in a town, and the bar doesn't really care what you're doing. They just want music, and they give you some money, but they don't care.
Yeah.
And it's all, it's part of the way it works. But when you find, and I find they're often in like small towns, but oftentimes you'll find like a business. I played at a print press in Silver City, New Mexico. There's this beautiful, I don't know if you've ever been over, have you been to the Generator Workspace on Audi here in town? It's like where they have like a co-working space and a lot of like, I feel like there's a lot of Burning Man art that's built there, like big statues.
I don't think I've been to it, but I believe I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
The print press had just a similar energy. It was a big warehouse, but it had all this cool old print stuff, and people were like doing printing, I guess, while like before our show started. But it was a kind of spot where they just send an email out to the people on their list, and whenever there's music, people are just like, it's probably going to be a good night, and it's like almost like a community gathering instead of a concert. But I mean, it is a concert. But the more I've traveled, the more I've kind of found these spaces where and I haven't had necessarily the easiest time finding those spaces and figuring out how to create them here in Reno. And I do live about an hour north of town. So I guess I'm saying if anyone here, house shows are a beautiful thing too. I'm really drawn to playing spaces that are more like, it doesn't even have to really be a business that has music. I guess that's part of what I'm saying. A lot of these beautiful venues that I've found across the country have just been like somebody had a building and they decided to put on like a house show once a month or something like that at the building. And and then all of a sudden, as you travel more, you start noticing that people know each other. And then all of a sudden, one day somebody says, "You know this person?" And you're like, yeah, I know them.
Starts marketing around.
Yeah, and so there's this whole cool underground world of music and nobody in that, I mean, ideally people get bigger and bigger, but there's this whole world of music that most people don't even know exists. And I'm sure that's true in like every genre ever. Yeah.
I think it comes with the thing too, like you were saying, one of the better places to play are kind of those smaller towns. And I was listening to a comedian talk about something where they were like, you go to New York City or you go to Vegas or you go somewhere and the people come out and they're excited to be out because they chose to come to you. But then you go to one of those smaller towns and it's just like, oh, what else could you guys have been doing tonight? And they're like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is why we're here, because you came to town. So we're here to listen to you.
Yeah.
And when you go to these ones, they're appreciative because you're there to play for them, but it's like, you're here. What else are we going to do?
Exactly.
And one of the other questions I have is your performances, or when you're performing, it's just a solo act, right? Or do you have a band that comes with you as well?
So this year I did a bunch of tours with one other solo act. So I generally perform by myself. I'm kind of trying to figure out how to expand and bring other musicians into the fold. Kind of the way that I came into playing music was alone. Like I learned to play by myself. I taught myself. And so and I love playing music with other people, but that's a whole nother skill set.
Yeah.
And so it's something that I'm kind of learning. But for the most part, I play alone. My ideal set is like a rather intimate show where I usually tell stories in between, or some mix of stories, history. I often get caught up in some kind of esoteric, spiritual something or other between a lot of my songs, because that is what my brain is often doing.
Whatever's going on in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy getting to like create that context for music. I think, I don't know, it can all kind of blend together when you don't have context. So definitely would like my next project to have other musicians on it.
Do you think for like collaborations, or I say collaborations as in like singer and singer duetting together, or would you not prefer, but would you have the idea of maybe adding, like you're playing the banjo and then there's drums or a steel guitar or something kind of
I'm really drawn to cool harmony work. I really like harmonies that sound organic, like in the sense of like it's being sung like together in a room. Because a lot of, especially like kind of like with pop music, like stuff that's like very well produced. Usually not all of the music it's not being played live. It's being kind of layered piece by piece. And I really like the way music feels when it's performed live, and harmonies are like a very special thing to hear live. I think anyone who's heard people sing a nice harmony know how cool that is. And then, like kind of just like an acoustic country band or folk band kind of sound. I really love the fiddle. But I'm coming to enjoy like the pedal steel and upright bass. And
it's that one song where it's like, if you're going to play in Texas, you got to have a fiddle in the band.
Yeah.
There's something about certain instruments that come in that pull things together.
Yeah, and it's just a good sound, and I've been fiddling a lot. I don't know how to. I kind of learned there's this genre. It's called old time, which I feel like isn't that helpful of a genre name for anyone not familiar. But it's essentially like melodic fiddle tunes that you can kind of dance to, particularly if you can imagine being around 100 years ago, and we don't have all the dance music that we have now.
Would it be considered kind of like swing, or
it could evolve into swing? I think swing might. I don't know enough about swing. I could imagine,
because I do a lot of like country dancing and stuff too. So it's like, is it something where you would move your partner around quickly or slowly?
Quickly. Traditionally, from the way I'm curious about partner dancing to old time. A lot of people, it's like clogging music.
Okay.
And by clogging, like traditionally, you just move.
Yeah.
You move, and some people
feet
are just really good at, like, if you can imagine like a really good flat footer or tap dancer or something, or like Irish jig dancer.
Okay.
Some people like can go off with that. Cotton Eye Joe would be an example, like the real Cotton Eye Joe, not like the or something like. I'm trying to think of what a fiddle tune that like everybody might know is.
I'll say it just because it kind of came to my mind, like "Devil Went Down to Georgia" or "Quicker."
Oh, well, so, I mean, that's like a country tune that just got some, like, ripping fiddle in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could. It's interesting. It's much simpler music.
Okay.
Though the fiddle players do rip. But it's like kind of like one melody over and over and over and over again until, like, your feet fall off.
They're feeling it, yeah.
Exactly.
Where his extremities are moving as so separate from his body.
Yeah. So
Chandler Bing reference. We miss you, Matthew Perry.
Rip. Is that, yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, we're a friend's household, so it's just been
no, it's, yeah.
full blown over there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry to everybody.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So with everything that you have going on now, you're back from touring, you've got kind of, a specific thing in mind. The question that I'll ask here is, what's next? Like, is there a single that you're working on? Is more touring kind of on the venue? Like, what's as general of a question as it is, what's next for you
Yeah.
here?
So I have one more tour this year. I'm going like next week. I'm going down to like New Mexico, Arizona one more time for a couple weeks. I've kind of mapped out my next album. I that's where I was saying I kind of there's a lot of logistical work that goes into putting an album together. Least of which is financing it, but then it's like figuring out I'm not that great at recording, so figuring out production, figuring out musicians to be on it, because I've only recorded solo, but as I was saying, I have a vision, and just I know I got buddies who I really want to record with, but musicians are notoriously difficult to get in the same place, let alone multiple of them in the same place at the same time. So I'm kind of looking forward to not traveling this winter. I've done about a year and a half where I've been touring quite extensively, and I'm kind of excited to lay low this winter. I'm not totally sure what next year has in store.
Right.
But I would really like to get this next recording started to figure out. It's even this week it started coming together. So
Getting a EP or album or something kind of
yeah,
on
and so
deck.
yeah, because I have like 4 albums out now, which I'm kind of the type of person who, when I have a piece of art done, I just want to get it out in the world. And
Want to let everybody know.
what's that?
Want to let everybody know.
Yeah, and so I feel like maybe I'm on this path where I'm going to be like 52 and I'm going to have 26 folk albums out, and an 18-year-old is going to like find them and be like, what is that? This is cool.
awesome.
This
Yeah.
is cool. No, I am very, there are like, it's very special having people who are fans of the music. That is like
Yeah.
such a strange thing to like wrap your head around. I think it's like, as a musician, like you have these goals of like, what does it take to be successful as a musician? And you have these goals of how many people listen to your music and whatnot. But when it comes down to it, even just one person really being a fan, it's a crazy experience to have.
Yeah.
And to like, something I'm very grateful for, because I didn't know that I would get to do this with my life.
Yeah.
And have this be such a big part of my life. So
When we're in such a big clicks and likes and comments and followers, kind of mindset right
Yeah.
now, where it's like so many people just want, well, I need so many followers and I need so many people to like and comment and do everything. But then it also comes to the bare bones of it all, where it's like, I just like that people are enjoying it. It doesn't matter that, of course, you want hundreds of thousands of people to follow and see it, because then it makes you do it more, and
Right.
then you can get it to more people. But when you have that little gathering of people that are listening, that actually know your tunes or know what you're putting out there, like from an actor's standpoint, where it's like, I've seen people that have seen my commercials, or not seen, but I've heard from people that are like, I saw your commercial the other day.
Oh,
You were
that's-
on TV.
that's
That was
cool.
cool. And then they'll reach out, or like, I've got family that they live in Elko, and I'll get a text and it was like, was this you on TV? I was like, yeah, it was me. And you get those couple of little people that just kind of give you that, that affirmation,
yeah, or, yeah,
where it's like,
that's so cool.
that people will say that, and then all of a sudden it makes it worth doing. Even though it's not, it might not be hundreds of thousands of people, but it's that little bit that make you want to keep going.
Yeah, because if it impacts one person, it has all the power to impact more than that.
Yeah.
And I'm actually playing Elko in like a week and a half.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Spring Creek or?
At the Duncan Little Creek Gallery.
Okay.
It's
I've
a
got
little-
family that lives all in
Nice.
all out in Elko. So
Yeah, I've really enjoyed playing in Elko. They've been really good to me. In that spot, they got like a little hostel, so they give me a place to sleep, and it's really nice.
Yeah.
So I always like playing out there. Yeah, then I lost the thread now. So
That's all right. That's great to hear that you've got the other aspirations coming in. You've got the other bit of the tour coming out. So, Charlie, I want to say thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for
and
having me.
Kind of telling me your story a little bit here. Before we do get you out of here, go ahead and promote your socials, websites, wherever you want people to find or follow, anything like that.
Cool. Yeah. So I said before, I got a website, charliemarksmusic.com. You can find me on Instagram, Charlie_Marks_music. I'm trying to be less active there. I'm trying to divest my soul from the social media for the sake of my well-being.
The mental health.
Yeah. But I post shows I play, and I got a Bands in Town where I usually keep shows updated. I got to put my next run up on there real soon, probably tomorrow, now that I'm saying it out loud. I got videos out on YouTube and music out on like Spotify, Apple Music, all the streaming platforms. So there's a whole lot of music to check out. And I appreciate you for having me on, and hopefully I don't have anything lined up for playing in Reno too soon, but hopefully we'll have something lined up here.
Hopefully something soon. And when it does happen, you guys know the website. It'll be in the description down below. So Charlie, once again, thank you for coming in. You guys heard where to follow. Follow the links below if you want to hear some folksy music. Get a little pep in your step.
I'd say the banjo stuff especially. It's like I said, it's kind of that flat footing dance style. It's like a very I would call it like a hypnotic style of banjo.
Can't beat a good banjo.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You can do. I always joke because we got video here. Sometimes you play a set and someone comes in and they'll start doing the banjo. This is the banjo dance with the elbows up for if you don't have a video. That's the banjo dance. And
we had something posted on my socials personally. There's the song where it's Lean Like a Cholo. It's like elbows out, side to side. So it's Lean Like a Cholo, but then they did a parody version of it where it's Lean Like a Gringo, and it's shoulders back, side to side. So I had a couple of drinks in me, and I'm hanging out with my family, and my wife decides to start recording me, and I'm with my mom, who's a short little Mexican lady, and I'm just like, shoulders back, side to side. And
oh my God.
And as soon as it's the same, when the banjo comes out, you got to have the elbows and shoulders and everything coming out too.
It's what you're called to do. There are more ways to dance to the banjo. It's a whole art form.
But when the music hits you, you got to move how you have to move.
However you're called to move is the right way to move.
However you want to move, that's how you got to move.
And even if you come to my show, you can throw elbows.
If you feel the need.
I've had children throw elbows while I played the banjo before. I don't know if I've seen adults throw elbows yet. No, not true. Not true. I played a dive, and I distinctly remember that someone took an elbow to the face pretty hard. So,
So be ready. When you come and see a show, be ready. And you guys heard it here. Thank you, Charlie, once again. You guys know what to do. Follow Charlie here on all of the social medias. For us over here, it's Stephen Longley for me, Longley's Line for the show, Lightstyle Studio for our studio here. We'll talk to you guys next week. Cool.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.